Bonjour et bienvenue à notre rendez-vous quotidien pour la presse, en ligne et en direct sur EBS. Nous sommes aujourd'hui le mardi 4 mai, même si le temps peut laisser penser que nous sommes encore en hiver. D'abord, permettez-moi de vous donner un aperçu des points à l'agenda du collège qui aura lieu demain matin. Le collège adoptera une proposition de règlement relatif aux subventions étrangères faussant le marché intérieur. Il adoptera aussi une communication mettant à jour la nouvelle stratégie industrielle adoptée en 2020. Les vice-présidents exécutifs Margrethe Vestager et Valdis Dombrovskis et le commissaire Thierry Breton vous présenteront ces deux dossiers lors d'une conférence de presse demain après la réunion du collège. Nous vous offrons également deux briefings techniques séparés demain sur ces deux propositions. Puis, le collège discutera demain d'une stratégie européenne en matière de traitement contre la Covid-19. La commissaire Stella Kyriakides tiendra une conférence de presse à ce sujet jeudi. Et maintenant, je passe la parole à Vivienne qui a de bonnes nouvelles pour la Grèce.
Thank you, Eric, and good afternoon. So the Commission has approved an investment of 84 million euros from the Cohesion Fund for the construction of a new infrastructure for sewage collection and treatment in Marathon in Attica region of Greece. This major project will directly benefit the environment and will enhance public health of the inhabitants of the area, in compliance with the European environmental acquis and fulfilling, of course, the goals of the European Green Deal. You will find more information about our cohesion investments at the Open Data platform and in our daily news today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vivienne, this concludes our announcements for today, and I immediately pass the floor to Thomas. Thomas, you have the floor.
Merci Eric. En fait, j'ai deux questions aujourd'hui, un sur la Suisse et un sur la taxation. Je commence avec la question de la Suisse. Les chemins de fer fédéraux disent avoir été exclus d'un programme de recherche européen sur la compétitivité du rail et que ça c'est dû au fait que la Suisse ne paye pas l'argent de la cohésion. Est-ce que tu peux confirmer ça on the record? Merci.
Merci. Thomas, je pense que le mot « exclu » ne convient pas. Ça n'est pas une entité particulière qui est exclue. Comme tu le sais, nous avons eu largement l'occasion d'en discuter ici. Il ne sera pas possible à des entités suisses de participer au programme de recherche de l'Union européenne tant qu'un accord sur la participation de la Suisse aux différents programmes de l'Union européenne aura été fixé ou aura été conclu. Deuxièmement, bien entendu, nous attendons que la Suisse verse la contribution cohésion sur laquelle elle s'est engagée et que nous attendons depuis 2013. Et puis enfin, comme tu le sais, nous sommes dans le contexte d'une recherche d'une solution globale pour notre relation avec la Suisse et évidemment la participation de la Suisse ou plutôt de nouveaux partenariats avec la Suisse dépendent de la conclusion de nos contacts avec la Suisse sur ce sujet et la ratification de l'accord institutionnel, l'accord institutionnel cadre entre l'Union européenne et la Suisse. Donc je pense qu'il ne peut pas vraiment y avoir de surprise sur ce sujet. Voilà, écoute, je ne pense pas qu'il y ait d'autres questions sur la Suisse et donc je te repasse la parole pour ta deuxième question.
Je te remercie Eric. Je suis sûr que vous avez vu les articles de presse concernant les montages fiscaux de Amazon qui passent par le Luxembourg. Non seulement ils auraient payé presque rien d'impôts en Europe, mais ils gagneraient aussi de tax credit, de crédit sur leur taxation à l'avenir. Je sais que c'est une affaire ouverte avec la Commission européenne aussi. Je me demandais si vous avez des commentaires à ce sujet. Merci.
Merci. Je pense que c'est une question pour Dan.
Oui, effectivement, bonjour Thomas et bonjour Eric. Je vais répondre en général, sur le côté fiscalité, et peut-être Ariana veut ajouter quelque chose à la fin sur la côté concurrence. Bien sûr, nous prenons note des articles dans la presse sur Amazon que tu as mentionné, Thomas. Je ne vais pas entrer dans les détails sur ces articles presse pour l'instant. Ce que je peux dire d'une manière générale, c'est que la Commission européenne a adopté un agenda très positif, très ambitieux dans le domaine de la fiscalité et de travailler contre la fraude et contre toutes ces questions négatives dans le domaine de la fiscalité. Ce que je peux dire sur 2 points spécifiques, d'abord, nous allons proposer bientôt une communication sur la fiscalité dans les semaines qui viennent, donc je pense que c'est bien de garder ça en tête. Et au niveau global, nous sommes en contact avec nos partenaires internationaux dans le contexte des discussions sur la fiscalité dans le OECD, sur la fiscalité. Donc sur ces 2 points-là, c'est important de souligner. Donc restons en contact pour cette communication dans quelques semaines. Sur la côté concurrence, je ne sais pas si Ariana veut ajouter quelque chose.
Ariana.
Alors bonjour Thomas, ça que je peux dire par rapport à la côté concurrence, c'est qu'on a vu le rapport dans la presse à ce sujet, mais nous n'avons pas de commentaires spécifiques. Je peux ajouter que la Commission continue à surveiller les comportements d'Amazon en matière d'impôts de la société. En 2017, comme vous le savez, la Commission a constaté que le Luxembourg a accordé à Amazon des avantages fiscaux en doux d'environ 250 millions d'euros et la Commission a ordonné à Amazon de récupérer l'aide d'État illégale. Le Luxembourg et Amazon ont formé un recours contre la décision de la Commission et ces procédures sont en cours.
Merci Dan et Ariana. Y a-t-il d'autres questions sur ce sujet? Merci de ne garder votre main levée que si votre question est sur ce sujet. Gabriella, tu as une question sur ce sujet? Non. Ok, très bien. Y a-t-il d'autres questions concurrence pour Ariana aujourd'hui? Other competition questions? That is also not the case, so we will move to Oliver, who had raised his hand.
Hello. My question is on the EU-India meeting. I was a bit struck by the tweet the Commission President published yesterday, where she referred to our democratic partner, India. Why did you find it necessary to point out that India is a democratic partner? In my memory, it's not necessary when you refer to the EU relations with, for example, Japan or Brazil or the United States. And more in general, what's, in your view, the most important thing you want to achieve there? Because if you look at the documents the EU and India produced after the last meeting last year, it's 13 pages, 160 points of common interest and so forth. Health is only 3 little points, and COVID is only 1 point in it, and very general. Whereas now India is on the border of, sanitary apocalypse. The situation is very, very dire, and sort of the conditions for cooperation and for this meeting have changed drastically. So, if you could give us a bit of an insight into the Commission's thinking about this meeting now, the main targets, the main deliverables you want to achieve there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oliver. The use of the word democratic when speaking about India, I think, relates largely to the fact that India is the world's largest democracy, and therefore it is something that indeed we do tend to highlight in our communication about India. But you're absolutely right. It does not mean that democracy in India is different from democracy in other countries. We tend to refer to it simply because of the exceptional dimension, I believe, of the country. When it comes to the summit with India, I cannot go into details about all the things that we hope to achieve during the summit. But what is clear is that we are looking for a dynamic partnership with India. You yourself mentioned indeed an area which is particularly in our sights at the moment, which is fighting the COVID pandemic. You know, and Balázs has had the opportunity of reminding you here on the podium the levels of support, the high levels of support that the EU has recently sent to India in order to help it in its fight against the surge in the pandemic there. We know as well that India is an indispensable partner when it comes to the fight against climate change. So we will certainly want to discuss these issues with Prime Minister Modi. Of course, there are issues related to connectivity. There are issues related to trade that are well known. So I think we have a wide-ranging series of issues that will be discussed, and where the objective will, of course, be to try to see how we can progress in our relationship. And I'm sure that you will learn more after the meeting has taken place, since there are press statements which are foreseen after that summit. Oliver, you have a follow-up.
Yeah, thank you. Trouble is, I have to inform my readers about what's at stake for tomorrow's paper, so I can't wait for your press statements about the summit afterwards. Does the fact that the British government is currently trying to present some sort of investment deals they have with India as a big trade agreement between the United Kingdom and India, and as something that they could only do thanks to Brexit, does that play into your consideration? Does it worry you? And more generally, you talk about a dynamic relationship with India, which everyone would be keen on. Does an EU-India trade agreement, I mean, is this something you envisage, or do you think that the current political, mood in Europe is rather not particularly conducive to concluding new, deeper trade and investment agreements with overseas nations? Thank you.
On your first question, the answer is very simple: no. It plays absolutely no role. The prism of our relationship with a large country like India is entirely linked to our bilateral relationship. We are, once again, not in any competition with anyone, not in any race with anyone. I think that in any case, the EU's track record in terms of signing free trade agreements is among the best, if not the best, in the world. And in general, we, as you know, put a lot of emphasis on building and deepening our trade relationships with many, many parts of the world. As to the atmosphere to sign trade deals in Europe, I think that's a very delicate question. But in general, the European Union has always been looking for ways to increase its trade relationships with partners across the globe. And as you know, we have signed even recently a certain number of deals with Mexico, with Mercosur, with Japan, with other countries, and Miriam can give you certainly more examples. And we have done so through various political contexts. We believe that the long-term benefits of a trade are there for all to see. The European economy is a very open economy, and therefore it makes absolute sense to explore with India how we can improve our trading relationship, deal with the issues that exist, look at new opportunities. So that is what we will be looking to discuss with Prime Minister Modi during the VTC on Saturday. All right, are there other questions on the EU-India summit next Saturday? That is not the case, so I'll go back to Gabriela.
Thank you very much, Gabriela Waczyńska, Reuters. This is a question about travel following the Commission proposal yesterday to open up to more foreign tourists in the summer. Britain will have its own green list of countries and the citizens of which will be able to travel for tourism starting from May 17. And I wanted to ask if the Commission has been in talks with the British government about this, whether EU countries will be on the British list, and if that is the case, do you then hence believe that British citizens should also be on the whitelist the EU will be adopting based on your recommendations? Thanks.
Thank you. That would be a question for Adalbert.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. Let me start with the last part of your question. So, the Commission believes that the UK should be on the list of countries from which the travel restriction is lifted. And I will have to disappoint you. I'm not really in position to answer this question for the simple reason that the criteria in order to put countries on the list of countries in a good epidemiological situation from which the restriction should be lifted. This decision is very much in the hands of the Council. So what the Commission did yesterday was propose an enlarged criteria in order to put countries on that list. It was for the Council to consider this proposal. So first approve the extension of the criteria and then to apply these criteria to specific countries, noting that these criteria are not simply numerical, and this is not simply a mechanical exercise, but it's one where the Council needs to appreciate several aspects of the epidemiological situation, both qualitative and quantitative, in order to come to a decision. Now, when it comes to commenting on other countries outside of the EU, the decisions as to how to manage the epidemiological situation, also in the context of travel, I have to say this is more a question to the British authorities. In any case, the process through which we come to, or the Council comes to the decision as to whether or not countries should be on the list or not, is not a process in itself of negotiation. It's in the first instance an issue of appreciating the epidemiological situation in the third country, and only as part of this consideration, member states may take into account the issue of reciprocity. However, not as such, there are no specific talks that the Council undertakes in order to come to this decision. I hope that clarifies.
Gabrielle, you have a follow-up.
Thank you. And can you just say if the Commission has been in talks with the British government on in trying to ensure that EU countries are indeed on UK's green list? Thanks.
Adalbert.
Not to my knowledge. However,
Adalbert, perhaps you could switch off your camera because we have connection problems today. Perhaps it will improve the quality of the sound.
Yep. Is this better?
Go ahead.
Yeah. To my knowledge, that is not the case. However, if you allow me, I would perhaps check also with colleagues from the External Action Service in order to see whether there has been any discussion on this on the ground in London through our delegation.
Thank you, Adalbert. Mira, is your question also on this issue? Are there other questions for Adalbert on yesterday's recommendation adopted by the Commission? That is not the case, so I go back to Mira.
Do you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I have two questions, one on Colombia and one on vaccines, India and Latin America. I put first the question on Colombia, okay?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I guess the Commission is following the situation, the violence on the streets in Colombia and Cali. Can we expect a statement about the excessive use of force against defenseless protesters? There are voices in the European Parliament calling for an observation mission. So that's the question.
Okay, thank you very much. Question for Peter.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Mira. Indeed, I mean, we are following very closely what is going on in Colombia, and this is a source of concern. What we are seeing, the European Union is condemning the acts of violence, which are tarnishing the legitimate right to protest and freedom of peaceful assembly, association, and freedom of expression. This is very important that these rights need to be upheld, and we, in the same way, we condemn the deaths of all the people who have been killed during those protests. The reports are saying about at least 19 victims and also one police officer. So I would like to express our condolences to the families and relatives of those victims. And it is really a priority to stop the escalation of this violence and to avoid any disproportionate use of force by the security forces. And we trust in the action of the Colombian institutions to investigate and bring to justice those responsible for any abuses or violations of human rights and those freedoms which I was mentioning earlier. As for your last sentence, it was not a question, it was a comment. We are aware about some initiatives, but let me say one thing, that our delegation in Bogota, together with the embassies of EU member states, are monitoring the development in Colombia very, very closely, and also together with international partners. And at this stage, there is no signals, or there are no signals that there would be a need for such a mission, as you just mentioned. So we are following the situation very closely together with our partners. We are condemning the acts of violence, but we have trust in the actions of the institutions of Colombia to investigate all those wrongdoings and to make sure that the rights of people are upheld and that there is no disproportionate use of force.
Okay, thank you very much. We will stay on the issue of foreign relations. Mira, I know that you have a question then on vaccines and Latin America. We will come back to that later. Christian.
Oui, j'ai une question. Est-ce que vous m'entendez déjà? C'est bon?
Nous t'entendons,
okay. En fait, une centaine de députés ont adressé une lettre au président des institutions, donc Mme von der Leyen, Charles Michel, et à M. Borrell, pour les alerter sur le sort des prisonniers arméniens après le conflit entre l'Arménie et l'Azerbaïdjan. Alors, ma première question toute bête, c'est est-ce que vous avez reçu ce courrier? Ma deuxième question, c'est qu'est-ce que vous pouvez faire au niveau des institutions? Est-ce que c'est dans vos compétences de faire quelque chose ou est-ce que c'est pas plutôt au niveau des États membres qui doivent agir? C'est un peu ça que je voudrais comprendre. Merci.
Merci beaucoup pour ta question, Christian. Je crois comprendre, d'après les informations que j'ai, que cette lettre n'a été signée qu'hier et envoyée qu'hier. Et donc, je n'ai pas encore trouvé trace de cette lettre, en tout cas chez la présidente de la Commission, ce qui ne veut absolument pas dire qu'elle n'est pas arrivée, mais comme tu sais, il faut parfois un peu de temps avant que les choses soient enregistrées, etc. Donc, je ne peux pas encore confirmer réception de la lettre, mais je n'ai aucun doute sur le fait qu'elle arrivera. Pour ton autre question, je passe la parole à Peter.
Merci. Pour ajouter, si le représentant va recevoir quelques correspondances des membres du Parlement européen, il va toujours répondre d'une manière appropriée. C'est toujours, ce sont les instruments, les méthodes que nous avons. Donc, c'est une chose qui est très sûre qu'on va recevoir une réponse si nous avons reçu la demande ou la lettre. Sur la question plus en général, je ne voudrais pas spéculer maintenant parce que, Christian, vous avez lié la question avec le contenu de ces lettres, mais en général, nous étions toujours très clairs sur le sujet des relations entre l'Arménie et l'Azerbaïdjan et sur le conflit dans Nagorno-Karabakh, que nous soutenons comme Union européenne, comme les institutions européennes, que nous soutenons la solution qui est négociée, qui est compréhensive, qui est soutenable dans le cadre d'un format qui est établi déjà, et c'est le format de, je dis en anglais, OEC Minsk Group led by its co-chairs. Donc, c'est un format établi et nous soutenons toutes les activités dans ce format pour trouver une solution compréhensive, une solution définitive pour le conflit en Nagorno-Karabakh. Et ce sont aussi les actions des représentants et de notre envoyé spécial pour ces régions qui sont faites avec le but de soutenir tous les efforts dans le cadre de cette OIC means Group Co-Chairs.
Christian, tu as une question de suivi.
Oui, non, je voudrais bien comprendre, parce qu'en fait, ils font état effectivement d'un accord qui a été conclu entre les deux pays, qui a des dispositions. Dans les dispositions de cet accord, il était effectivement prévu de libérer les prisonniers. Bon, ça, c'est le contexte. Moi, ma question, elle est beaucoup plus... C'est à quel niveau on peut agir? Parce que envoyer une lettre au président, à la présidente de la commission, la même lettre au président du conseil, la même lettre au haut représentant, c'est très bien. Est-ce que dans leurs compétences, ils peuvent agir? Qu'est-ce qu'ils peuvent faire? Parce que j'ai déjà entendu à plusieurs reprises M. Borrell devant le Parlement européen répondre aux députés européens, mes chers amis, c'est très bien, vous me demandez d'agir, de faire des sanctions, mais c'est pas à moi de le faire. Moi, je ne suis que le représentant qui essaie de trouver quelque chose. C'est auprès de vos États membres qu'il faut agir. Donc, on se renvoie on envoie des courriers à des institutions et on attend de ces institutions qui, comme d'un coup de baguette magique, vont résoudre le problème. Ma question est toute bête, c'est ont-elles la baguette magique pour résoudre le problème, ou qu'est-ce qu'elles peuvent faire pour essayer de le résoudre, et quel est le cadre, si j'ai bien compris, de ce que dit Peter, c'est l'OSCE qui serait plutôt le cadre, et cette lettre devrait être envoyée plutôt à l'OSCE. Mais bon, c'est un peu ce que j'ai compris, si tu peux me confirmer ça, merci.
Peter.
Donc, qu'est-ce que nous pouvons faire? C'est une chose de l'action de la politique extérieure, comme toujours. Ensemble, nous sommes plus forts, plus efficaces, plus effectifs. Donc, ça veut dire les institutions travaillent ensemble avec les États-Unis, avec les États membres, les États membres de l'Union européenne, et aussi avec les partenaires internationaux pour trouver les solutions ou pour contribuer à trouver la solution. Donc, c'est un engagement de chaque jour. C'est une chose que nous faisons régulièrement, que nous faisons dans le cadre des conseils des affaires étrangères et de l'autre interaction que nous avons avec les pays membres. Donc, c'est un effort commun, c'est un effort que nous faisons ensemble, et c'est la manière plus efficace, la meilleure manière pour réussir les résultats. Mais comme je dis, sur ce sujet spécifique entre l'Arménie et l'Azerbaïdjan, nous avons déjà un cadre que nous soutenons comme une organisation, comme l'institution, et aussi avec nos pays membres de l'Union européenne. Donc, le soutien, c'est une chose très importante dans la scène diplomatique internationale, et nous allons continuer avec ce soutien.
Merci beaucoup, Peter. Alors, nous restons sur le sujet des relations internationales. Noureddine.
Bonjour Eric. La présidente devrait, selon certaines informations, recevoir demain le roi de Jordanie. J'aurais souhaité savoir si, pendant cette visite, on pourrait s'attendre à des annonces concernant le partenariat ou des initiatives dans le partenariat, pour renforcer le partenariat entre l'Union européenne et la Jordanie. Surtout que c'est un peu en 4 semaines, presque, c'est la deuxième visite, la deuxième rencontre entre la présidente et le roi de Jordanie. Le roi dirige un pays qui ne cesse d'être secoué par des situations, par des problèmes difficiles, que ce soit des problèmes de sécurité et surtout des problèmes économiques. Je te remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Noureddine. Tu as devancé l'annonce que nous allions faire cet après-midi, effectivement, sur cette rencontre entre la présidente de la Commission et le roi de Jordanie. Je ne suis pas en mesure pour le moment de faire quelque annonce que ce soit. C'est vrai que la présidente s'est rendue récemment en Jordanie. Tu sais que le roi de Jordanie avait prévu de venir à Bruxelles il y a de cela quelques mois et que cela n'avait pas pu avoir lieu. Je crois que cela montre l'importance de la relation entre l'Union européenne et la Jordanie et l'importance que nous attribuons à la Jordanie comme pays ami et comme facteur de stabilité dans cette région. Et donc, il est normal que les relations entre la présidente et le roi soient régulières. En ce qui concerne l'ordre du jour de cette réunion, c'est quelque chose sur lequel nous serons amenés à communiquer ultérieurement. Y a-t-il d'autres questions pour nous aujourd'hui sur les relations internationales. Ça n'est pas le cas. Et donc, je reviens à Mira qui avait une autre question en ce qui concerne, si j'ai bien compris, la distribution de vaccins en Amérique latine. Mira, you have the floor again. Go ahead.
Do you hear me? Okay, thank you. The situation in India is impacting the vaccines for COVAX. So the question is there a change in Team Europe planning something new to improve the situation, especially regarding COVAX in Latin America? Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Mira. That would be a question for Anna.
Hi, Maria. Thank you so much for the question. I think that we are all, of course, aware of the issue of the scarcity of vaccines worldwide, and I think that from the European Commission's perspective, clearly the reply lies in work towards ramping up production. This is something that the EU is also concentrated on doing in Europe, and we have always said that this, of course, will also contribute to global efforts. As regards to more specifically your question on COVAX, you know very well that member states have started to announce, their intention to share with COVAX. France has already shared actually with COVAX a first batch of vaccines. Also, you are aware that Spain has also announced that they will be sharing through COVAX between 5 and 10% of their doses that they will get throughout 2021, and they expect that this could be around 7.5 million doses, and you know that these would benefit Latin American countries and Caribbean countries, and also yesterday Sweden also announced that they would be sharing 1 million doses through COVAX. So indeed the European Union is also doing its part to help COVAX and our partners directly, worldwide to be able to access the vaccines. We have always said that, nobody will be safe until everybody is safe. And clearly we all need to, speed up safe and effective vaccination. And this is why also, as I just mentioned at the beginning, we think that ramping up production is the best solution that we have to try to achieve this common goal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Are there other questions for Anna today on the international effort to distribute vaccines or on development issues more generally? Raf, is your question on this?
Yes, hi, it is on this. It's on the spread, the distribution of vaccines to the Western Balkans. It was announced last month, and we are seeing the first effects of that now out there. And I would just like to have an update on that, on how many nations you have already hit with such vaccines, and how many we expect in the coming days. And also, if you could give me a general comment on the political meaning behind this, yes, that would be good. Thank you.
Thank you, Raf. Anna.
Hi, many thanks. So indeed, these first vaccines that are arriving to the Western Balkans have been made possible thanks to the conclusion of agreements that have been facilitated by Austria to be able to secure a total of 651,000 doses for the Western Balkans. If you need the distribution for a country, I can of course give it to you. This has been very much based on epidemiological needs, prioritizing, of course, the healthcare workers and other priority groups. Now, Commissioner has traveled to the region yesterday, Monday, in order to be able to discuss with the authorities, their response to the pandemic and also the EU support. I think that the vaccines have to be seen in the context of the continuation of the European Union support for our Western Balkan partners in order to be able to tackle the pandemic. You know that we put on the table a very substantial package of 3.3 billion euros for the Western Balkans to tackle the immediate needs, and also, of course, the longer term, mitigates the longer term effects of the pandemic, both in terms of employment and social protection. Yes, these should be seen as the first vaccines, that have been able to have been secured through the EU's advanced purchase agreements. They're funded by the Commission through the 70 million package that we adopted in December 2020. And I think that the main message, Commissioner, has given it in the region, because we care about this region. Their future lies in the European Union, and this is why we're working to support them as best as we can, of course, to deal with the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. All right, are there other questions for us today on other issues? Tommaso.
Yes, good morning. Tommaso Galavati, Necronos, Italy. It's just a question on vaccines. I don't know if for whom exactly it is. It is a curiosity about the internal border measures or sanitary measures, health measures, as you want to call them, adopted by Belgium. Because I recall that in February, President von der Leyen explained that according to the Commission, it would have been better to treat in the same way areas which are similar under an epidemiological point of view. Given that Italy and Belgium are both red in the ECDC map, I wonder, does it make sense, according to the Commission, to impose such heavy restrictions on movement? Because to come from Italy to Belgium, you have to undergo 2 tests and a mandatory quarantine of 7 weeks. And coming from Belgium to Italy, it's 2 tests, 2 mandatory tests, and I think 5 days of quarantine, which is, pretty. They are pretty tough measures, but they're basically very similar in epidemiological terms, and also for the variants, because both are dominated by the so-called UK variant. Thank you.
Thank you. That would be a question for Stefan, in terms of the health measures, and perhaps Christian.
Yes, maybe. Thank you very much, Tommaso. As far as the health measures are concerned, as you know, such health measures such as imposing quarantines are matters of national competence. So member states have the possibility to impose measures of quarantine, which I believe are justified on the basis of the epidemiological situation. Of course, what is very important from a health side of view is that we try to ensure as much coordination, and I would say a coherent approach across the member states in the European Union, which is one of the reasons why such topics are also discussed in the context of the Health Security Committee and monitored also by the ECDC. But again, the choice for certain public health measures is in the end a measure that falls under the national competence. Thank you.
Thank you. Christian, you want to add something?
Yeah, maybe just to add in a general terms that, of course, coordination is very important in this, and as you know, we would expect all member states to take the recommendation that we have in place there since October and have updated earlier this year as their compass of orientation. You know that we have also reminded all member states in a letter to do so, and we are not. We have written some specific letters to some member states where we had some issues or saw some concerns, but this was not related to any of the measures that you were referring to here. But I think the general principle is important. To adhere to a coordinated approach, and you will find, if you go through the recommendation, you will find quite clear guidance on this, also to the issue of quarantine and testing, which can be an approach actually when it comes to the variants in which we have added in our recommendation earlier this year.
Thank you, Stefan and Christian. Do we have other questions on this issue or the issue of the health situation? Angela. It's recovery. Okay, so we'll come back to you afterwards. David.
Oui, bonjour, Eric. David Carretta, Radio Radicale. Christian, I would like to know if the fact that Belgium has reintroduced the right to travel is enough for you, or there is still a problem since the measure that they are allowed to take have a huge impact, in fact, on the freedom of movement of people. If I come from Italy in Belgium for 5 days, I'm in a sort of vacuum because I cannot go back. I have to wait the second test after 7 days and be in quarantine for 10 days. So I cannot go back in Italy. Is it a problem for you, or everything is okay with Belgium? Thank you.
Look, I think our concern that we voiced quite clearly was related to the travel ban, where our recommendation was quite clear that non-essential travel should be strongly discouraged to areas with high incidence rates or variants of concern, but not prohibited. This was remedied, and we took good note of the Belgian decision to that respect after intensive exchanges on political and technical level. So for the current measures, I don't have any specific comment here apart from what I just said, that it's always important to also regularly review then, of course, the situation on the basis of the recommendation that we have jointly agreed upon, and to be well coordinated. And maybe I can add in a more general context here. Of course, the digital green certificate is now an important upcoming tool to facilitate safe free movement and improve the situation for all of us who would of course like to travel again in a safe way once this is possible. So I think there is also some developments. We just had the first trial of yesterday to come, but otherwise I wouldn't have anything to add on these specific measures.
Thank you very much. I see no other hand raised on this topic, so we move to recovery and the question from Angela.
Yes, good morning. Thanks, Eric. Yesterday, at the midday briefing, you invited the member states to publish the recovery plans as a whole, the whole recovery with all the project, and as a matter of transparency to the citizens. I was wondering if it is possible to know which member states has done it, has published the whole recovery plan. And the other question is, of course, you have the integral version of the recovery plan, which have been presented, obviously, I guess. Thanks.
I'll give the floor to Marta on those. I suppose the answer to your second question is yes, but I give the floor to Marta.
Yes, thank you very much, Angela. And indeed, we have clarified the situation yesterday, but I'm happy to clarify again what's the issue, the state of play with the publication of the plan. So, indeed, what member states have submitted to us is an official submission of their final recovery and resilience plans, and those sometimes include additional technical documents such as the costing of reforms, which are basically technical in nature. And some member states have decided not to publish them. What we provide on our web pages is the link to the versions which have been published by the member states themselves. themselves. And let me repeat again, those documents are originating from member states, so it's therefore up to them to decide what they publish on their website. As I said yesterday, we have encouraged all member states to make the submitted plans to the Commission public. But again, it's up to the member states to decide what they wish to publish. So for any additional questions on what have been published by member states, I would invite you to direct your questions to the member states themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. Are there other questions related to national recovery plans for us today? Anna, you have a question on this.
Yes, hello. Actually, I would like to ask you about the part of the recovery fund that is in loans. Poland has submitted its plan that it turns out that it asks only for a third of loans that it was attributed in the original plan. I'm just wondering if other member states are not interested that much in loans. What's I mean from this member states that you already received the plans. Thank you very much.
Marta.
Thank you very much. So as you know, so far we have received 14 official submissions of recovery and resilience plans. Out of those, I believe 4 member states have requested loans at this stage. In our press release, we indeed provide the figures of the requested loans. In some cases, member states have requested the maximum allocation. Others have requested less than they could request under the loan facility. As I also had the opportunity to explain, member states still have the opportunity to request additional loans in the future. They can do so until August 2023, and therefore this part of the facility, let's say, is still available to them if they wish to make use of it later on. Of course, if they decide to request further loans, they will need to submit an updated recovery and resilience plan outlining additional reforms and investments in order to justify indeed why additional financing is needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. Are there other questions for us today on the issue of national recovery plans or the Recovery and Resilience Facility? If that is not the case, I open to other issues. I do not see any other questions, so thank you very much for your participation, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for the college readout. Bon appétit.